Coming up next on Rugby Wrap-Up, World Rugby Sevens, the Six Nations, and the ARCs. Rugby Wrap-Up brought to you in part by Irish Rugby Tours, the Rugby Tours people. A balanced palate, nutrition for peak performance. AFIA Sports Training Group, and Big and Whistle on West 36th Street, the world's best rugby pub. Hey everybody, welcome back to Rugby Wrap-Up. Matt McCarthy and Steve Lewis at the Fantasy Sports Network, Studio 34 in Midtown Manhattan, talking rugby. And Steven, before we get started, I just wanted to see how you are.
Excellent, thank you.
Excellent, excellent. I'm fine too. Thanks. But Steve, let's not waste any more time, right? Let's get right to it. A lot of rugby we have in this particular segment, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be talking about the sevens, the World Rugby Sevens, the ARCs, the America's Rugby Championship, and the Six Nations. So let's start it off with the fastest code of them all, sevens.
Sevens, right. Another leg in the World Series was in Sydney this last weekend. So yet another fantastic weekend for American Sevens rugby. Starting with the men, they made their fourth consecutive final, which is spectacular. Consistency now, it's just this is unbelievable. This is uncharted territory for American rugby. They came up second again, so that keeps them in first place, tied with New Zealand on the table, which is what we're concerned about, given the Olympic qualification year. So fantastic for them. Lost to New Zealand in the final. That's okay.
Yeah, and I think all of us would have said we'd be happy with fourth, we'd be happy with fifth at this point, right? But number two, 4 tournaments in, that's pretty good.
Yeah, 4 in, 6 to go, so some way off there, about 21 points ahead of fifth place. That's what you got to keep an eye on, but they make every final for the rest of the year. You know, who's complaining?
Yeah.
But, they'll get over the hump here and nowhere better necessarily than Vegas up next.
But there was some kerfuffle going on, including a reminder that they had lost in 4 finals. What was your take on the New Zealand-USA kerfuffle that was going on?
Okay, well, the New Zealand All Blacks, you know, the most successful professional team in world sport. Okay, in the 15-a-side code, they have something called the no kids policy. Not sure I can say that,
well,
but it certainly doesn't. It certainly doesn't extend to the sevens team, unfortunately, because they've got something of a serial offender. Kurt Baker is a veteran player for them, who basically taunted his opponents after the final whistle and during and after the final whistle, which is unacceptable and should be looked at. It's just not in the spirit of the game. I disapprove.
Yeah, it was uncharacteristically lacking in etiquette for the All Blacks, who pride themselves on, carriage.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a one-off. It's not the program. It's not them. It's not the shirt. There's nothing about that. All Blacks have been spectacular, but this one guy is a bit of a bad apple, in my opinion. And no room for taunting. No room for disrespecting opponents.
I agree with you. So going forward with the sevens.
Right. So on the men's side, they go to Vegas end of this month, and this could be the last Vegas trip for everyone, which will be a real shame. These things are, doled out on a 4-year rolling cycle. World Rugby's decision. It's not USA Rugby decision necessarily. So they're looking to pull it from Vegas. There's a bid process out now, so this actually might be the last time in Vegas. In my opinion, big mistake. Biggest weekend in the USA Rugby calendar. You have the Las Vegas Invitational. Multiple teams coming into town. It's a fantastic weekend. Vegas is one of the few places that logistically could hold it, irrespective of the fact you've got all the other Vegas attractions. I personally like Vegas. I think it's the right place for the stop. So disappointing that it may be the last one.
I'm not crazy about Vegas, but you just sold me on that one point that I completely overlooked about the Las Vegas Invitational tournament. I've always thought maybe Miami could work, but you've also got the new stadium being built for the Raiders, which could evolve into the venue, which would be great. So, yeah, I kind of agree with you, and it's unfortunate that the guy that would be the one fighting for that cause for it to stay there left us, John Prusmack.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a show on its own, right? But John Prusmack, United World Sports, were the company that invested in this tournament and made this tournament a commercial success. Now World Rugby want to take it back. They're within their rights. They are the rights holders. But it's a little bit, if you think about it, I wouldn't be too happy if I was United World Sports.
All right, let me go back to Sydney because it was a shared venue between the men and the women. women, United States women had a very good tournament as well.
Exactly. They so it's their third out of six. They're on the same track to Japan, trying to make sure they're on that plane to Tokyo. And they had another good tournament. They finished third, lost New Zealand in the semis. This places them second overall, so they're in good shape. To be honest, if they keep making quarterfinals, they're almost home and dry.
Yeah.
They just got to avoid one meltdown tournament, but they're in good shape. Of particular interest this weekend, there were two debutantes played for the Women's Eagles. One was Christy Kirsch, who is a Boston product who came through Northeast Academy over the last 9 months, and she scored with her first touch in international rugby. And she scored with her second touch in international rugby. So she had a great weekend. I think 4 tries overall. She did really well, and she's been great to see. The other debutant, Casey McCreevy, who is actually a West Point grad. Didn't play rugby at West Point, played softball, and so was a crossover, but very smart athlete, very good athlete. But on that front, there's going to be a pipeline of talent coming from West Point.
And do you know anybody that coaches at West Point?
Steve? I do.
Steve Lewis, Coach of the Year, coaches at West Point, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so this is a Fast and Furious segment. And we have a separate segment for the MLR. But let's move on to the ARC's America's Rugby Championship. United States versus Chile.
Unfortunately, this went as expected. So it was in Santiago. It was extremely hot, apparently, 35 degrees, and it was a blowout. 71-8 was the final. Wasn't a great venue. Wasn't a good crowd. Eagles did what they had to do. You play what's in front of you, so they racked up the points. Noticeable for AJ McGinty coming back. Scored a hat-trick and he's come back. So that's good. It's a good game to get back in there. He's got one more, then he returns to the Premiership. So that was the U.S. Beat up on Chile.
And Joe T matching the front row record for tries. By I believe it was.
Did he match it or did he overtake it?
I think he tied it.
It's a front row record. Wouldn't really know.
I don't know, but I think that's.
But it's
cool.
still a good performance.
He's going to break it. He's obviously.
No question. Second game was another blowout. Argentina over Brazil. As expected to, but a little disappointing from the Brazilians. I thought they made more progress. Everyone's talking about their scrum. Their scrum is still good, but they got to develop other facets to the play. And unfortunately, it looks like maybe you're seeing a two-tier competition this year and last year. But U.S. and Argentina up here, the other 4 here, although Canada have made some improvement. But that takes us to the third game, Uruguay-Canada. And Canada, despite playing 60 minutes with an extra man, managed to lose it in the last 60 seconds. They went down 2017 to Uruguay. The reason for the 14-man was the Uruguayan scrum half, who plays for Houston, was justifiably sent off. A high tackle, the dangerous tip landed on the head. So he's gone. He's gone for Uruguay, and in fact, he will be gone for Houston. So he'll miss a few games for them as well.
Interesting. There you have it. The attrition that is coming from the ARCs affecting the MLR is also now within these calls and these penalties.
Yeah, but it's our Six Nations. It's the America's Six Nations. This is the 4th edition. We've got a long way to catch up in any of the kind of rivalries and tradition in Europe. But a little more competition, a little more parity would be useful. Yeah,
and at least we have going forward to this weekend. We have AJ McGinty available for the match against the 15s of Argentina.
Right. So USA are still down in South America. They hop over the border, not the border. They hop over to Argentina, so they're playing them away. Then the other one you have, Uruguay, Chile in Uruguay, and you have Canada, Brazil.
Canada. Well, if you're in that shed after the match, what do you say to the guys?
If you're the coach,
yeah.
I'd use some choice words. It was a game they should have dominated. They were in control of. That's a lack of maturity. There's been some calls on media for, are they going to pull back Phil Mack, Stoller, people like that. Yeah. Are they playing with the full deck right now? Is this Kingsley Jones's preferred 15, or is he sort of hedging his bets? So,
and even our guest coming up on our MLR segment is Dan Moore. He's not with the squad.
He's not there either. He's played for Canada before, so perhaps he can shed some light on that.
Yeah. All right, Six Nations.
Six Nations, first round. Scotland up 33-3 against the Italians at Murrayfield. Stuart Hogg disallowed. It would have been a try of the year from over the halfway, which would have put them up 43, and then they had a defensive meltdown. Lost a man in the sin bin and conceded 3 tries for a final score of 33-20. Wasn't that close, but that's a disappointing late lapse for Scotland, particularly when they are going to have a bunch of wounded leprechauns coming at them next week.
Wounded, actually, too, because Toner's out, Stander's out, Ringrose is out. So that's going to be the question of the depth. But, you got the win under the belt, and you are at home. And when I say you, I mean you're Scottish, Steve.
I am indeed. Yes. I am indeed. Just in case Martin Pengelly doesn't know that, but we are top of the table for at least one more week.
All right, France, complete meltdown against Wales.
Talking about meltdowns, this was a meltdown for the ages. France, this whole sort of cliche about the French schizophrenia, right? Are they going to be world beaters or are they going to blow it? Well, it was the team that Tristan blew it. So they were up 16-0 at half, I believe.
Yes.
Rainy day, and then he managed to cough up a poor chase back, handling error, followed by a ridiculous interception, and he coughed up a loss to Wales 24, 16 or 17, whatever the final was.
And this old guy that you may have heard of, George North, got a couple of tries.
He got 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, he scored 2 and coughed 1 up. It was an own try.
Right. But you can stop the phone calls, Johnny Lewis, our Welsh editor, who has been prank phone calling us, asking us to talk about the Welsh more on our broadcasts. So
right. Well, I mean, they are now, unbeaten for 10, 11 months. They've won 8, 9 in a row.
Would be the team of the tournament.
Potentially, they go to Italy, and you don't see them really slipping up even in Rome. So they'll have 2 away wins under their belt before they take on, some tougher teams.
And the high-flying English.
Yes, much though it irks me to say so. England
painful.
were. I know this is going to be captured for posterity, right? Yeah. But England were very impressive at the weekend. That's the best they've been in a while, in my opinion. They started the game with real intent, real ambition, accuracy, physicality. I mean, they bullied the Irish. And
they go to France. Oh no, they're home.
No, they're home. Yeah, the French actually go to Les Roses Beef, as you would say.
Beef versus the roast beef and the frogs.
All right. There you go. So that's coming up on deck. So every week with the Six Nations, there's something to look forward to, right?
This is Le Crunch, right? Le Crunch.
That's what the English call it.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, it's great rugby all across the board, and we are out of time on this particular segment, ladies and gentlemen. We apologize, but we do have another segment devoted to the Major League Rugby, so tune back into Rugby Wrap-Up. Matt McCarthy and Steve Lewis, who looks resplendent in that suit, Steve. Just gorgeous. Here at the Fantasy Sports Network, Studio 34 in New York City. Signing off.